Good morning, my friends. It's your old pal PeaceLoveMusic with another episode of the Let's Go Morning Show. And actually, I'm a little surprised because our normal start process didn't go the way it normally does. So it looks like there was another update with Restream. And so we're live. And I actually have to get the updated numbers because I don't have the current numbers. So I actually, you'll be happy for me. I actually got away with closing my laptop Friday evening, and I didn't open it again until this morning. I actually had 2 days off for the first time since I started this project back in July, really. 2 actual days off, which I did do some work. There was some stuff that I had to handle, and obviously I got a lot of stuff home. I had a lot of free time. I got some stuff at home done. So just feeling good about where we are in the space. What's up, Chef? Honey Badgers represent. Good morning, sir. I'm feeling good. I got some rest. It's important. I've been preaching it actually to everybody else every weekend. Touch some grass, get some love, connection, physical connection with people. It's good for you. If you're into that, I mean, not judging anybody. What's up, Skid? Squid? Joe? What's up, man? Good to see you too, man. Too much legacy media this weekend. I told you to turn that stuff off, man. I told you. Things are good. Don't listen to those guys. And that is the SIP 29 votes ready. Heroes ready to get people on that. It's part of the news show, sir. We are on it. Actually, you guys see right up there, SIP vote, stx.eco. You go vote for SIP 29. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Good morning, sir. Good morning. Good morning. I feel good. I actually woke up a little tired. I slept a little later than normal, but got out of bed, got my little bit of exercise routine in. That's important too. Got my walk in with Mrs. Peace Love, which is also good for her because it keeps her going too, although she's never missing the walk, even though I do often. And we got a lot of stuff going on, a lot of things developing for DeOrganized. We're really excited about all the different things coming. And I don't even have this one on the ticker for today, but I guess MicroStrategy bought another 51,000 Bitcoin. I think we might have mentioned that late last week, but I don't know if that might be another new buy being announced because, I mean, obviously, why wouldn't you be bullish? It does seem like we're starting to get institutional adoption legit in crypto and Bitcoin especially. So good things coming. Let me get to the news, though. You guys are talking to me too much. Not really, but I love y'all. So I actually, just friendly reminder, and this is the ticker, but the ticker is actually the same ticker from Friday. So I'm going to get the updated info right off of, we're going to do it live. Right. But friendly reminder, this is a new show. We are not providing financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. Always do your own research and never invest money you cannot afford to lose. Don't make your investment decisions based on my opinions. I often get it wrong. I often don't know things. And even sometimes I get it right. My timing's wrong. So don't make your investment decisions based on what I have to say. I'm just giving you some news, some tools, some access to information, and you digest that. And you make your own decisions on that. So for Fear and Greed Index dropped down to 81, still in that extreme greed range, but a little bit under, heading downward a little bit. And we'd like to get that back down towards the greed and neutral area. Maybe some consolidation is due. Bitcoin dropping down to just under 90K at 89,688. And stacks coming in this morning at $1.87. I was in the low $90s, I think, on Friday. And it did drop down to the number 39 spot. So there's a little bit of room for stacks to improve. And your top three gainers for the last 24 hours on CoinMarketCap are Hedera, HBAR, Mantra, and Stellar Lumens, XLM. Wow, good for them. Good for those guys. I don't hold any of that, but I love seeing the OGs get some, I'm going to try something a little bit different. I'm going to try to share my screen for the calendar today. We're going to look at the calendar for Stacks calendar for the day. And the Stacks calendar, we have Good Morning Stacks with me. At 10 a.m., we have Find to Earn Monday with Skullcoin and memes. And that is, you can actually check out Skullcoin at Skullcoin BTC on X. It is a space on X, so you can follow them. And then we have the Behind the Stacks, Bitcoin DeFi Stacks Simplified and Amplified. That is also an X space put out by Dave, DCBK2LA. And always good stuff going on the DeFi show. Lots of alpha on what's going on in DeFi and stacks. You can catch that at 2. And then at 4 p.m., we have our DeOrganized Whatever Monday. Come on, talk about whatever. Stacks, Bitcoin, you got something going on in life. You're a new coder. You're looking for a place. You're looking for community. You got a new project. You got questions about, come out and chat with us. We'll happily talk it around. We love it's just a community time for us to all get together and share whatever. And then that is the Stacks calendar for the day. I don't think we're still doing the whatever month on the Stacks London, Stacks and Chill. I don't think is going on Mondays anymore. But I got to talk to the doc because he's usually hosting that. See if he's interested in still doing that. We also, flipping over to Miss Gecko's community calendar, we have Landy's Crypto Corner at 1. That's with Crypto Landy. Behind the Stacks at 2 p.m. with Dave and Stacksy. Whatever Monday, we just told you about. Coming soon on the go with Miss Gecko and Dave. I don't know exactly what that's going to be about. Just hearing about that for the first time. Cool. This week in Vivi at 5 p.m. on X. That's with O'Milly Tees and Miss Gecko. All Things Crypto with Dave Cool and Nat at 5:30 p.m. and Beyond the NFT at 8 p.m. That's a YouTube show with Sinful Meatstick and Coppin' or Droppin' at 12 a.m. With EVLVD. So Evil VD. I don't know if that's how you pronounce that or not, but EVLVD is the handle there, and that's also a YouTube show. It was reported over the weekend that the Pentagon is unable to account for $824 billion for their $824 billion budget, failing its 7th consecutive financial audit. That's concerning, right? I mean, if the military, which spends a tremendous amount of money, and I'm not saying that all of it's wasteful, but if they can't account for nearly $1 trillion, that's very problematic. And so Polish presidential candidate Sławomir Mencen pledges to adopt a strategic Bitcoin reserve if elected. Institutional adoption. Robert Kennedy says, I quote, I put most of my wealth into Bitcoin, so I am fully committed. I have a healthy percentage of my wealth in Bitcoin now too. Not that I have anywhere kind of the wealth that Robert Kennedy has, or even a small percentage probably. But he also goes on to say, Bitcoin is the currency of freedom. I fully agree with that as well. And Bitcoin is a hedge against inflation for middle-class Americans, a remedy against the dollar's downgrade from the world's reserve currency and the off-ramp from a ruinous national debt. It's peace money. It's peace money. Bitcoin is the money of peaceful coexistence. That's why we're going that way. Vivek Ramaswamy says he and Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency will delete certain agencies. We expect mass reductions. We expect certain agencies to be deleted outright. We expect mass reductions in force. That's what's needed to get through this wasteful situation and get us back on track to where we need to be. Michael Saylor, I think this is actually Friday's news. Michael Saylor says replacing SEC Chair Gary Gensler is incredibly bullish for digital assets. It's very good for the crypto industry. We're going to see a lot more pro-Bitcoin policies. But that's true. That's true. Elon Musk, or report says Elon Musk rejected Sam Altman's 2018 proposal for OpenAI to launch a cryptocurrency court filing reveals. It would simply result in a massive loss of credibility for OpenAI and everyone associated with the ICO, Musk said. And he's also made very clear that he's unhappy with the direction of the company since he left it, that it was supposed to be an open source company, and that it is very much the opposite, a completely closed, for-profit, proprietary entity. And Musk, amongst others, say that that's very dangerous for the most powerful AI development conglomerate in the world. It's very important that we actually get these tools open. ARK Invest's Kathy Wood predicts Bitcoin will reach $1.5 million by 2030. Hold, people, hold. Don't give them your Bitcoin before 2030. I'm not predicting that number, but I think it's going to be a lot closer to that number than where we are now. Not financial advice. The SIP29 Stacks Bitcoin halving alignment proposal vote is live. Go over to stx.eco and vote on this proposal. This is an important proposal to ensure that the SBTC launch scheduled for December goes as smoothly as possible. Its intent is to keep the miner, signer, and stacking incentives stable while SBTC launch goes live. I fully support this proposal myself. I understand the general potential concerns and drawbacks on it, but I think this is a no-brainer given the atmosphere of where we are and what it entails and what it's revolving around. I fully support this proposal, and I urge you to vote yes. Go vote at stx.eco. QR code right there will bring you right to the page to vote. And if it's too hard for you to type stx.eco, 7 characters. So I know most of you guys can do it without the QR code, but if you need it, it's right there. Tacovations Awards are alive. Head over to the StacksLink page on X and nominate someone for a Tacovation Award today. It's a great way to kind of keep the community engaged, make sure everyone's getting recognition. It makes you feel good when you give somebody else that's doing a good job some recognition, and it makes them feel good. It makes them feel like their efforts are getting somewhere, and it encourages them to keep doing good. This is important. We need to keep everyone engaged. It is actually hard when you're putting in the work and you start to feel like maybe no one's noticing. So show them some notice. Give them some notice. Let them know that they're inspiring you by the work that they're doing, and you appreciate them. Not punks are now available to earn S points on Spaghetti Punks. Head over to spaghettipunk.club and start earning S points today. Those can be used for future mints. I think they can be traded on the platform too, but they can also be used for future mints of Spaghetti Punk and Spaghetti Punk collaboration NFT launches. So you want to earn those S points with your Spaghetti Punk. And if you don't have a Spaghetti Punk Club NFT, you need to go over to spaghettipunk.club and mint one. They're like super cool, and they're an OG collection. Still mintable now, and very integral to the history of development of NFTs on Stacks. You should get over there and check them out. Skullcoin Story Mode, free to play now on skullco.in, live on Stacks mainnet. You head over to skullco.in, that's Skullcoin with a dot between the O and the I, and you can participate now in the free to play mode. The story mode teaches you how to use the NFTs, how to mint the NFTs, and find the clues and how it all works, so that when the competitive mode, or the earn to play mode, launches soon, you'll be ready to go. So get over there and try out the story mode now on Skullcoin at skullco.in. Boom Ghostly Transactions. I can't wait for Boom Wallet to launch. I know that they're working on some really cool stuff, and I think it's going to be amazing once it comes. It's going to be a game changer for the Stacks ecosystem and on-chain commerce for Bitcoin and Stacks. Smart contracts, smart wallets, smart shops, smart links to payment links. It's really going to be a game changer. Go check out the Boom Ghostly Transactions NFTs now And maybe it's just a fun NFT to commemorate the launch of Boom Wallet. Maybe there'll be some future benefits for those that do mint those. It's minting right now for 7STX on gamma.io. And zero authority bounties. There are currently 8 at my last count active bounties with options to earn STX, Rue, and Leo coins for various tasks that you complete for the bounty stakers, the people that have put those bounties up. So go over to zeroauthority.xyz, check out the bounties page, set up a Zero Authority account if you don't have one set up, and start earning reputation for the on-chain gig economy now. It's important for everybody to be participating in that. It's really good for you to do so. So that's important. Get over to Zero Authority, set up a Zero Authority account. You just need to connect it with your X wallet. And that's the news. I do want to remind everybody again, SIP vote. Get over there and vote. We need to do this. Also, good morning, GPSC. Good morning, Wolfie. What's up, man? Wolf's from the Spaghetti Punks. I love those guys. Good people, too, by the way. It's not just a cool project. Good stuff going on in our community. Good stuff going on in our ecosystem. I'm super excited to be here. I really think, there's just so many great things I didn't cover, that I can't just talk about in a 15, 20-minute news segment. We have the Easy A guys are going out to have their biggest event ever in Asia, which they just had a killer event at Harvard and then went up to, they were out at Cambridge in Oxford and London, and had a great event there. And now they're going out to have their biggest build-a-thon out in Asia, in Hong Kong this week. And that's super bullish to me because there's so many new builders coming into our space, coming into the ecosystem, learning to build on Bitcoin, on stacks, other projects too, on crypto. The more crypto development, the better. People know I talk about stacks a lot. I'm very integrated into the stacks community. I love a lot of the people in the stacks ecosystem, but it is a decentralized space. We're here to expand and grow and get more, expand and grow and make more connections. But there's going to be, just like there's multiple meme coin communities and stacks, and they're all great, actually, and a lot of them are the same people building in different projects in different ways. And that's decentralization. It's beautiful. So, just reiterating, we're chain agnostic here. Bitcoin's the OG chain. Without the development of Bitcoin and the advent of real hard cryptographic hard money, none of the rest actually would have been capable of happening. So Bitcoin's the OG. It's all built out based on the concept that Bitcoin is the reliable medium of exchange that it is, the reliable hard money that it is. But the programmability layer is being built in multiple ways on top of this, and there will be multiple winners. So we're not worried about which coding language they're learning. They're learning to code smart contracts on crypto, and that will eventually translate into more development in the whole space. So it's good for all of us. It is Monday. We got a lot going on. We've got a lot going on this week. We do have second editions of 2 new shows tomorrow. We have the Syndicate's AI Deep Dive with Michael Jagdeo. That's going to regularly be at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time on Tuesdays. Landy's not crypto corner, learning TA with Landy. We're going to have our second episode. If you didn't catch either of those, the first episodes of both shows were really great. But Landy's show was very, very informative. If you're interested in getting an idea of how technical analysis and charting works, we did candlesticks and trends, and then candlestick patterns and trends. I learned a lot of basic stuff, connected some dots for me that I had open, even though I've had some exposure to this stuff. But check out Landy. Also very excited to have the first 3 HANA or 3H Alpha show launching tomorrow. That's at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And then at 2 p.m., we're having a special live event for the launch of the When Walls Break album on the gated.so website, which is a project that Good Kitty and Gary Reiger have been working on. It's tremendous breakthrough in new capacities for artists to retain the rights to the works that they create and the value that they create, and we're super excited about that. Where can I borrow a few billions in DeFi? I don't know. The Department of Defense might have some budget around somewhere that they can't track. Hero. Yeah, we're getting there. There is billions of dollars already locked up in DeFi. That's the reality of it, and the whole crypto industry is growing, and we're getting adoption at the governmental level, the institutional level, and that is only good for people that are in the space. It's only good for those that are in the space specifically for the reasons why, the ethos behind it, open source, permissionless, censorship resistance, distributed networks, for those purposes, borderless, trustless exchange, and hard money. And we're getting there, people. We're getting there. There's every reason to be excited and optimistic heading into this week. And I'm happy to be here. I really do. GPSC says you can borrow against your stacks with Zest. So if you have $1 billion worth of stacks here, which maybe he does. He works so much. He's got to have a big bag, right? Although that's not always true based on my own efforts. I don't always have a big bag for the stuff I'm putting work in for. Sometimes it's more than that. But yes, if you do have $1 billion worth of stacks, you can borrow against that on Zest. Although I'm not sure if they're really prepared for that kind of an inflow. But that would be excellent. And Zest is a very interesting project as far as the ability to borrow against your Bitcoin and borrow against other assets in the Stacks ecosystem, and then deploy that to earn yield in other ways. Very cool stuff happening in our ecosystem. It is Monday, the 18th of October. I am PeaceLoveMusic. This is DeOrganized Media coming at you on Bitcoin Live. And you all have a blessed week. Have a productive week. We'll see you at 4 p.m. on the Whatever Monday. If you got anything to chat about, come on, chat with us this evening at 4 p.m. Eastern time on the Whatever Monday space. And otherwise, we'll see you later. We'll see you back tomorrow morning. And Mike, hold on a minute. I think I have a guest. I guess we're not wrapping up. I hope you guys are still watching. What's up, Haddy? How are you today?
I thought we were catching up today, so I thought I was going to be on the show.
I didn't know. I wasn't sure if you still. I wasn't sure if you did that thing that you were working on last week.
Yeah. Not all good. This week it worked out. So sorry. I'm pushing out the time. Am I? Sorry.
No, I don't care. Hey,
Giga.
We're deorganized. So, it's whatever. It's whatever Monday. So I mean, it's whatever. It's whatever.
Yeah. Coming in late. I'm pulling a Giga Pepe.
Yeah. Well, he's gonna take care of the dog. No, man. That was a very pleasant surprise. I mean, I'm happy to keep chatting. We have a meeting in about. We have I guess it's the first official like team meeting for DeOrganized in an hour.
Looking forward to it.
With a couple of guys, and I did chat with Jack yesterday about some cool things that he's got on in his mind. Man, the guy's got interesting wheels up there. So you're getting more. Haddy's getting more love this morning than I am. Hero saying what's up. GPSC.
So now we've worked it out. That's why Giga Pepper comes in late, because he gets all the love.
Maybe that's it.
There is a method to the madness.
So how was your weekend, man?
Yeah, it was good. I think I'm looking forward to today's meeting. So today's obviously the weekend was good. It wasn't too bad. It was a long weekend in Europe. So, but obviously I sent you some stuff in the DMs this morning, which was very interesting.
Yeah, what was that? Poland presidential candidates looking at a strategic Bitcoin reserve, and then there was something about hate speech, which I don't even. We've had that conversation before, and I don't hate anybody. I don't hate anybody at all. Like, even the person that's done the most worst horrible thing, I can appreciate that I separate the thing from the person. Don't get me wrong, there's repercussions to your actions too, right? But it's not, I don't hate anyone. But the idea that speech should be regulated because it might be ugly, that's really what it boils down to. Is
the phrase was offensive, wasn't it? Offensive. Yeah. It's offensive. It's an offense.
Yeah, that's what it said. Where was that?
That's the UK. So the UK has obviously got their speech laws now. Resh loves those laws. Sorry, Resh lives there. They're taking it way too fast. They're moving from where there's hate speech, which is clearly defined, although there's still a little bit of nuance in hate speech around the world.
It's not ever clearly defined because it's a subjective. On its face, it's bullshit. Okay? Yeah. It's bullshit. If somebody's a mean asshole and they're going to talk like that, let them expose their warped bullshit ideas so we can act accordingly. We don't want everyone pretending to be nice, right? Because then we don't know. It's not honest. If it's not honest, it's worthless if it's not honest, in my opinion. So if you actually feel strongly about have a position, I'd rather you go out and say that out publicly so that we can have a conversation about it.
Well, I think we spoke about this before. When I went to school, we had debate. So we literally were given a topic or like a question, and then we were given like, you are a for and you are against. So like you put your thing in, you took out a number. Okay, you're an odd number. You're against it, and you have a even number. You're for, and then you have to take your side on each side, and you have to discuss it whether you believed in it or not. I mean, we went through abortion. We spoke about all these things in high school, and I'm talking about 20, 25 years ago. We were having these discussions, and then it was about, if you really want to understand the other side of the floor, you need to be able to sit on that side and argue for them. So that's basically what it was, to talk from that side. And the other part of it is, how do we actually communicate with each other so that the other side understands us? Because screaming and shouting doesn't work.
Right. Well, that's the
coherent conversation.
The establishment of the idea of illegal hate speech is really a means of the government establishing censorship. It's just a means of establishing censorship so that they don't have to actually justify policy that's opposed to the interest of the people. If you can't, well, that's hateful. And what do you mean it's hateful? Like, and to be honest with you, I have a very unique idea of how immigration should work. Personally, I think I'm a proponent of just open borders and the free movement of people. Otherwise peaceful people. And don't get me wrong, I understand that you have some not peaceful people maybe coming into places and stuff, but that's what the local police are for. That's our local militia, by the way, is the local police forces. Like, we have, so a well-regulated militia is part of the Second Amendment in the U.S. And in my opinion, our local police is part of that. Our local police forces are part of that. They're in the community. They're the ones that are actually attached to the local community as well. And their job is to deal with the non-peaceful element of society. That's what their role is. We have a role for that. So just kind of funneling people that are just generally migrating in through the system to vet them to see if they're bad actors or not, that's not really effective, because you're wasting all these resources channeling all of these. The majority of people are good actors, so you're wasting resources vetting a bunch of good actors, where the bad actors are going to get through a lot of the time anyway, because they're working towards this, kind of veiling what they are. They're hiding, like they're not outward what they are, because they know that they're being sought after. So I take a general opinion position that humans, by their very nature, are economically viable. We've taken over the planet, so that's obvious. Humans are economically viable. We generate more economic capacity than we require output to sustain ourselves. So more people means more economic capacity for any given location. And there are abundant resources to go around for everybody globally. It's just a matter of a large part of the problem is that the state is used as a barrier to entry for markets. So it's used as a mechanism for monopolizing resources, while it's empowered under the guise of providing more equal distribution of resources. It's actually used to the opposite way in what I see.
Yeah, but if you say the state is there to divvy out and share,
it's not.
It's not there. Your government is there to ensure the upholding of your constitution and to make sure that the laws of the country are upheld, and then to escalate that, to bring that down.
The Constitution is actually what makes the state exist. The state doesn't exist. The Constitution is the body, the Constitution of the state.
Yep.
So it's the rules of the state. It governs what the state can and can't do. But what I'm saying is the state is used by people with the power to influence the state to actually create barriers to entry, to create, to externalize the costs of accessing resources. So they use the government, for example, they use the U.S. government to ensure that they have access to resources abroad. They use the U.S. military force. They get access and political force. They use, to lean on governments to make sure that they get favorable access to those resources. And so the cost of getting access to those resources isn't in their profit model. Like, it's not affecting their profitability, because they're not paying for the U.S. military. They're not paying for the U.S. political establishment doing their bidding as part of their exploitation of those resources. So now you have an imbalance where they've been able to access resources that we can't access at a much cheaper rate. So then they're able to consolidate the access to those resources, meaning that they have access to resources you can't get.
But
isn't the government's empowered partly as a so those same people will actually kind of also lobby for the government to get more empowered by the mechanism of distribution, of actually being there to provide welfare services and unemployment and stuff like that. So, does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I think all we have today is governments are merely the same as what we had with the lords and ladies, where they're the landlords in the UK, for instance, where they owned land, and everyone who was on that land needed to be productive and pay to the landlord in order to access that. So after that, you have the after that, you had that people were then looked after by the landlords. but until you weren't productive. And I think all we have is now we have more laws around that.
You're talking about the feudal system.
Yes, so, I think we built upon that, and now we have more, and they still used the knights or their mercenaries in order to do things. So to enact, so whether it be to take over somebody else's land or to enforce the law of their land.
Right. We do have a kind of quasi-feudalistic system now. And actually, so my second oldest son, who is now, I believe, just turned 25, if I remember correctly, when he was in middle school, so about 12, 13 years ago, he was in a history class, and what he was learning about the feudal system, what they were teaching these kids in public school, what they were learning about the feudal system there was that the feudal system, the lords provided protection and care for the serfs, and so the serfs had to give a percentage of their produce in exchange for that, and that was it. They're not which is a very, very fluffy and light kind of like painting of a rosy picture of the feudal system, which is not what it was, right? You know, it was really almost like an organized crime type of thing. You're on my land, you have to pay us, protection.
Yeah, it was servitude.
Right. It was a non consensual exchange. Actually, they didn't have a choice. If they didn't give up their produce, they had it taken, and they were punished violently.
Yeah, they would lose their land, they would lose their farm, they would lose their business, and they would have to leave.
If they were lucky.
Or thrown in jail.
Or thrown in jail, and or right. Yeah.
No, I was just saying that we have the same today. It sounds prettier, and we think all of these things, but it's exactly the same as the lords and ladies. We built that out in England, then we saw England do what they did, and then that just transferred. And I think the US tried a different model by giving more rights, more than the Magna Carta. So there were more rights given. So it was like building on the Magna Carta to say now the citizens have way more rights, which is a good thing. So you were allowed to bear arms in case the government was evil. So if your rulers were evil, you could take arms to protect yourself or to overthrow.
Well, I look at it as even just a more fundamental right to defend yourself. You shouldn't have to defer to the state to defend you against someone that's acting aggressively and violently towards you. You should have a right to resist that. And I think that's fundamental to any kind of idea of a free society.
That's the way it's written, isn't it? It's written as to protect life and property, is it not?
It's written it's kind of written a little bit. So it is in order to let me actually get up the actual words for.
Sorry. This conversation is going to lead into something very interesting, a conversation I had with a lecturer today on LinkedIn.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, meaning that a free state must be able to defend itself, and the people of a free state must be allowed to arm themselves in order to defend this, and protect the security of a free state. That's what it's clearly there for. A well-regulated militia is almost grammatically incorrect the way I read it, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
But the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And that was people also get hung up on. So I am not a proponent of being well armed individually. To be honest with you, I'm a proponent of the right of people to do that. But I also take a different viewpoint where I don't want to necessarily manifest a situation where I require having all of those things. But maybe I'm just naive. Maybe I'm privileged because I'm offsetting that responsibility to other people, by not maybe arming myself as much as I could, based on these laws and rules. I could be more armed than I am based on the current laws. So I don't want to, I'm not interested in actually that next step. I want to avoid that at all costs. I think part of avoiding that is having the capacity to do so. Having the capacity to respond in kind is, it's just the same thing as the MAD policy, mutually assured destruction policy of the Cold War, where, the capacity to wipe them off the map and the capacity for them to wipe us off the map was what actually avoided that conflict from escalating to that place.
But that's what's also holding everyone back at the moment. So that's interesting because everyone's talking about tactical nukes and this. Okay, it's mutually assured destruction. So it doesn't matter what the media keeps telling us. We all need to understand that within 90 minutes, most of the first world is gone. So as much as we think, Russia's going to launch or the US is going to launch, if either of them launch, the other one launches. There's no fail safes in place.
Right. Even if it's accidental.
Well, they've had occurrences of accidental where they've accidentally thought that there was a launch. They've had those before.
Well, not right. A couple of years ago, there was wasn't there something in Hawaii? I think there was a massive. Their early warning system went off, and everyone in the island thought that they were imminently about to get hit with a nuclear weapon.
Yeah. So I think the nuclear discussion, although it's scary and people get on edge about it because they keep talking it in the media, we need to remember that these are the same platforms that gave us COVID. These are the same platforms that scaremonger us into all these other things. It's mutually assured destruction. So I can't see Putin or Biden, for instance, like the people behind Biden, wanting that, because it assures the whole of the US, whole of North America is gone. Who would want that? Nobody. It makes no sense.
Psychopaths.
Yep.
Psychopaths would want that.
No, but if we revert back and we say psychopaths, yes, or narcissists, for instance sake, and we go back a step and go, but most people are good. So the question is, as long as we have enough good people in the system, we have a counterbalance where they can't do it. So that's where that's sadly the.
You're right, but there actually seems to be. So we haven't actually gotten into this kind of a conversation before, but there seems to be, in my opinion, a lot of well orchestrated operations to compromise what may be good people in positions of power, and then once they're compromised, they get escalated because they're malleable and controllable, and that's pervasive throughout our systems right now. There's a lot of, I don't quite understand why people are so compromisable, to some degree. But it seems like there are a lot of ways there's a lot of honeypots out there. There's a lot of things out there to get people put into positions where they're made to believe that, yeah, everything's fine. You just got to do what we say and nobody will find out about this. That like Jeffrey Epstein, and now we see the P Diddy stuff, the Diddy parties, and You think those are just one-offs? It seems like it's a pervasive thing throughout the entire. Like that, there's this shadow. That there's this shadow entity that exists that manipulates and pushes buttons and manipulates people and manipulates commerce and manipulates industries from behind the scenes, and we're not allowed to talk about it. We're not allowed to question it. If you do, you're made to you're actually made to look ridiculous in one way or another, and they'll and they can make anyone look ridiculous, So while I do believe most people are good, I believe that all people make mistakes, and sometimes it's hard to, if you think, So I'm diabetic. I'm not supposed to eat sugar. And my wife had gotten an ice cream cake, and there was a piece of ice cream cake left last night, and she brought it over to me, and I could have said no. I should have said no. If I woke up not feeling very well, I'm sure it wasn't good for my blood sugar. I didn't even check my blood sugar this morning because I already knew. It was not a good decision for me. It doesn't make me a bad person, but I took the cake. The cake was there on a plate ready for me to eat. It was easy to take. Those repercussions are, I'm not trying to hide from the repercussions of my actions, but I can appreciate how it's easy to take the bait.
Yeah. Well, it's, when you say pervasive, I think when we look at society, we've had really hard times. And the hard times have produced hard men. So we've had good men come out of that. And the easy times create weaker men. And I'm not saying we're weak. I'm saying in society, we have weaker men. So if we look at our leaders, we have weaker leaders. We also have weak people who are complaining about things that previous generations would have said, hang on a minute, you well-fed, you have clean water, you have access to medicine, you have all these, you don't have diseases. So those are the things, those make weak, which then makes it really easy for us. If I always play the game, if I were to rule the world, so let's go back to the Second World War. What did the Japanese do to the soldiers? They broke them down systematically with small things. Here's the cake. Have the cake. Oh, you shouldn't have had the cake because, and then you build upon all of these and you slowly break the character of the person. So you slowly break it. You did this little thing. Why can't you do this? Why wouldn't you want to do this? And then once you've done that, then you have the next one. And that's when we talk about Epstein and we talk about how good men's morals are broken. It's one little piece at a time. It's one little infraction at a time. That's how societies eventually break.
Yeah, actually, I've seen that too. I mean, our society in the U.S. has been being demoralized for decades, actually, by a myriad of things, and you're right. People complain about stuff that's not a big deal all the time, so we'll touch on all the taboo subjects, right? Let's talk about.
Should we call it Taboo Mondays?
Well, all right. So I have no problem with whoever somebody loves.
Yeah.
Whoever they want to engage physically with, and in whatever way, as long as no one's being hurt and everyone's consenting, I don't care. I'm not worried about the traditional lining up of male, female, or even gender roles. I'm not like, I'm totally comfortable with effeminate men and masculine women, effeminate men that like women, effeminate men that like men, masculine men that like effeminate men, whatever. Like none of that, I don't care. But why are we now determining that effeminate men, especially boys, effeminate boys, must be girls?
This is a long question. It's a long. I'd like to start by saying, when did it change from religion is me personally? It's got nothing to do with you, what religion I am, nor do I have to talk about my religion. That's something very personal to me. The same as if I said, if I were not to be heterosexual and I was homosexual, that has nothing to do with anyone else. That's me. That's my private something.
Right.
I own. Yeah.
Right.
Where did it become that I don't own that? Same as my opinion. Why am I not entitled to my opinion? When did we change where I wasn't entitled to my own opinion? Where has the world changed in that fact that I now no longer have those parts? That somehow I must give these over and I must conform.
Well,
all needs to be fiction again, does it not?
It's the same thing. Yes, it's the same thing as the establishment of an authoritarian on what speech is allowed, hate speech.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any problem with a man identifying and wanting to act out and exist in a more traditionally feminine gender role and act that way. Dress feminine, act feminine, pretend to be a woman in public, like act as if they are a woman in public. But it's still a man, by like physically, sexually, biologically speaking. There's nothing you can do to change what you are that way. Like it's we're chasing something that's not achievable, and I think harming people in the process, to be honest. I don't think that it's fair to people to say, oh yeah, you can, all you have to do is believe you are. I can't just believe I'm wealthy and then be treated that way. I can't just believe I'm 6'2" and then suddenly have that be my reality. There's a reality. Like, we're within the bounds of what is true and what isn't true. And I don't mean anyone harm. I don't want someone that's confused or uncomfortable with who they are and how they are to be more hurt. You know, I think that they've already got enough that they have to work on.
Yeah.
But the establishment that we all have to pretend that they are factually what they aren't is bananas. It's bananas. It doesn't make sense. It's part of, so I bring it up in it's part of the demoralization of our society to force us to believe things that can't possibly be are just what we have to accept as true, even though we know they aren't. We know they aren't.
Well, you're touching on. So, at what point? So, do I have a right to believe in my reality, or is it that I am obligated and forced to believe another reality? So, which reality is true? So at the moment, we keep being forced into we could say even narrative. We're forced into a narrative. I'm gonna bring it back. I'm gonna roll it right back, because we had a course in school where they were teaching about. It's a longer course, but the first session was about discrimination. So, and there's a video in there that you're gonna love. I need to find the video for you. So they're talking to the children about discrimination. And what does it mean to discriminate against somebody? And why the unconscious biases we have. So it's good for children to understand that we have unconscious biases. So where do they come from? But they had this wonderful video playing by the UN talking about what discrimination is where you isolate, you ostracize somebody because of the color of their skin, or because their sexual orientation, or because of something that they like that you don't like. And I was sitting there and I was thinking, they're teaching the children this, but why is it in recent history we just had it where they ostracized large waves of people who weren't vaccinated, and the unvaccinated were unclean. So they discriminated against all these people, and they couldn't have jobs. So if you are a person of color or have sexual orientation that is different, let's say, then the way, I don't even know how to say it. It's conventional, if it's conventional, because today it's not really like this. Convention means we have everything, but
right today there's nothing wrong with a homosexual couple, or
I'm saying you can't discriminate against somebody who's homosexual from the workplace, but we could for vaccinated people. Like, you're not allowed here, which is a very interesting thing to play to the children, to talk about discrimination, but not talk about
on an experimental vaccine
Yeah.
that was untested and turned out to actually be largely useless. Largely useless.
But the logic was flawed anyway. If we take the vaccine part of it out of it, which isn't actually a vaccine because it hadn't passed all the trials, but we'll leave the vaccine issue aside, and we'll say, for people who are vaccinated to be scared of people who are unvaccinated, you are protected against it. So I'm more at risk than you, because you technically could give it to me, although actually you can't give it to me because you can't get it and you can't pass it on. So why are you scared of me being unvaccinated?
It wasn't even true. So the vaccinated, you're right. It didn't make sense on a number of levels. It was just one self-contradiction after another. We have the same thing with where they went from masks don't work to everyone has to wear a face mask everywhere they go. And the kids have to sit wearing a mask on their face for 6 hours in school. And nobody's allowed to talk to each other. And, it's part of a demoralization. It was part of a demoralization campaign. It was not, that's exactly what it was when I'm here.
Yeah. We were actually, it was really good what we had here is that we went to when we eventually came back to school, we had half classes. So then you didn't have like somebody sitting at the desk with you. You had your own desk and you were one away from each other. So there had to be spacing, and you had your assigned seat, like every time you came in, and we had alternate days for children, and then they could breathe. So at the end of the lesson, we had to open all the windows, even in the middle of winter where it's super cold, and then they could take their masks off and breathe for 10 minutes, and then we'd put it back on, and then we'd start again. So as long as it was fresh air and ventilation, it was okay to take your mask off.
It was all made up. To what end?
But that's always the question. That's always the question. It
was to demoralize us.
I don't think it was to demoralize us. I think it was to, if you accepted this, why won't you accept that? So I think this is more about, you accepted this, it worked. Fear worked.
That's part of the demoralization. Our moral character of questioning stuff was broken down. It was a demoralization campaign, which we've been enduring for decades on decades at multiple levels. Same thing with the war on terror. Mm-hmm. It was a demoralization campaign on top of the massive wealth extraction efforts they were as well. They also, same thing with the vaccine. We're not supposed to say that word on certain social media, I think, but that whole thing was, we're not getting ratioed anyway because we're live and nobody cares. But the vaccines were a huge wealth transfer. The government transferred a bunch of taxpayer money to the pharmaceutical industries, which used their gains, by the way, to dominate our traditional media and not allow and censor the media that we get. That's all done through the pharmaceutical industry.
Well, there was an interesting podcast I listened to a while ago now, and it was the what are they called? Organized crime around the world. So talking about, do you realize how difficult it is to launder money in the US? Super difficult. Like in Europe, very difficult to launder money successfully. If you have a war,
right,
and the war goes on for a long time, it's the easiest way to launder money.
If you have a war, you can actually tap the federally set up crypto exchange, FTX, and use that to launder all of your crypto donations going to the country, and then somehow they end up being the number one donor to the establishment political party for that cycle. Weird how that works.
Well, the wars that are raging around the world, and I'm not talking about the wars that are on this media at the moment. There's wars in Congo still going on. There's wars there's loads in Africa going on, and they go on for years. And these are just interesting places where people can launder money. or failed states. Zimbabwe is a classic example of how much money laundering is going through the system there. How you launder money.
Laundering money. It's also very profitable to sell arms to both sides, to the governments, or even have it be government, foreign aid that's actually basically, an aid package might be, well, here we're going to give you these billions of dollars, but it's all for you have to buy this stuff from Boeing or Raytheon or whatever. So it's really all just subsidies for the establishment industry anyway. It's not even just laundering. Laundering is the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. So Nina is right. We should preface ourselves by saying that these expressions are solely ours and not meant to. They're not to hurt anybody. It's having an open discussion about the things that we've seen play out in the world.
Absolutely. I agree with that too. The views expressed are solely those of the speakers and not meant to promote any agenda or cause any harm. The only agenda I am ever looking to promote is peace, love, and abundance for everybody. That's really what I'm about.
Yes.
And if any topic feels uncomfortable or offensive, please remember it's intended for open discussion, not provocation. And that is true. That's all absolutely true. And thank you, Nina, for reminding us or helping us show that.
Yeah, we spoke. We're literally trying to spark debate and have an open discussion so that we can push the conversation forward, because we need to have more conversation rather than getting angry or playing these games with each other of you said, I said, she said. Let's have a conversation about it. But what I really want to talk to you about is what Electra said today.
We didn't get to that. Yeah.
Interesting. So, she's at the network school somewhere in Asia. I'm not sure exactly where.
I'm not positive.
She's in Southeast Asia somewhere. She's at this really cool event for a couple of months. So she's taken off and gone there with some super interesting people. I need to find the
later in Asia, but I'm not positive.
Yeah. I can't remember where she is. Anyway, I will figure it out. She put a super interesting post up today talking about how can we take Bitcoin and move Bitcoin to becoming where people basically pay for services for the government. So she was saying you pay for services through your Bitcoin as a means of payment, and governments get that Bitcoin from you. So I was just looking at it from a different perspective, going, I would prefer to actually, what would happen if we had a government where you staked your Singapore? Yeah, thank you, Reese. I think it is as well. What happens if you staked your Bitcoin, but it was still in your own custody, because we can do that. The country could then use that via DeFi to earn yield, which pays for your services. So I was thinking, what would happen if we moved to a place where you staked your Bitcoin in the country? So your citizenship got through staking that Bitcoin. You could obviously earn in Bitcoin and do all of that, but you would stake a certain amount of Bitcoin as your citizenship, and the country could then utilize that. You could de-stake it at any time and move to another jurisdiction. So there's no tax.
I like the idea. I actually see. So I see a decentralized state apparatus. Turn myself up too much here. I see a decentralized state apparatus as being so. The thing missing from our current social organization structure, our current governing capacity. What's up, nobody? Is this live right now? Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't change the date. I didn't change the date for.
Yeah, I got confused as well, because I went in. I was like,
it should say. So when I went to run the stream this morning, normally it brings me through to another page where I reset up the new title. So I changed the title. So it should be. So what's it say? It doesn't say, because the title I'm saying should say Monday the 18th.
Let me see what it says. Let's go. It still says Friday.
It brings me through to another page
Still says Friday the 15th.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly why it's doing that. It went live. So normally I hit the go live button, and it comes up with another set of screen. I have to turn on all the channels and everything. I might not even have all the right channels on. I don't know, because it just went live. I wasn't ready for it. It just went live. It didn't do the normal process it did. So I don't know.
While we have a break, let's say, nobody, thank you for joining, and also to the 137 other people that joined us today on X alone. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today.
That's just on. So on X. We actually have. So because I didn't get to go through so normally what I do is I share it out from my PeaceLove. I share the DeOrganized from my PeaceLove feed, so people tune into that one. So I actually have more people on my PeaceLove, or the same amount. So we got 137 watching us on my feed and 137 watching us on DeOrganized. So it's actually, with all the other channels and Bitcoin Live and everybody else, we have we're almost at 300 is why I'm bringing that up.
Yeah, I want to say thank you to everyone. That was all, because I was.
Yeah, thank you to everyone for tuning in, and appreciate the interaction and intercourse. And I apologize. I'm not sure why the date is wrong, but thank you for pointing that out. Nobody, because I'm not sure why that happened.
Well, I think what it was psychologically we wanted to make sure everyone had the Friday mood, even though it's a Monday. We wanted to spread the love.
It was definitely not. The process wasn't what it's normally, and I don't know why. So somehow we needed to have. Well, that was the last. I don't know if you caught the very beginning of the show, but I shut my laptop on Friday evening, and I didn't open it again until this morning. I actually had 2 days off. It was pretty great. I mean, we talked about some stuff. We did a little bit of this and that, but I didn't have to work on anything all weekend. So it was I think it was a couple months ago, I told you and Hero both that I wouldn't have a day off until November. I finally got them. I got two.
You got to take the day off. It'll get easier.
I had to. Yeah. I mean, we just got so much cool stuff going on. I just can't right now. But as far as where I was going with that,
we got RTV is people haven't even RTV. I'm letting it drop.
RTV.
Roads to Vegas.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Roads lead to Vegas.
Did that Jack Binswitch talk to you about a Root TV or something? I'm like,
we definitely need a Root TV. That's one of the things, but that's something later.
Yeah. Well, Jack, we have a team meeting in a little while, about 20 minutes. So let me do kind of circle back to what we were talking about with Electra and the network state. The network state is actually what that group is called, or kind of building or studying. And so the component missing from our current social structure, our current government structure, is consent. We actually don't have a consensual process. The federal government is established. It's supposed to be of, by, and for the people, but you cannot opt out. You have to participate. You have to be a part of it. There is no consent piece. So because there is no consent piece, it's actually inherently a violent form of governance. It governs through the ultimate infliction of violence for non-compliance. And that needs to be eliminated. So I think what you're going to see is you're always going to have a local jurisdiction. You're always going to have a local governance.
Yep.
And that local governance, that local governing entity will have a right to engage in treaties and agreements with other entities. And you kind of there. You're part of that but your consent is staying in that place. There. But I think that you'll also see the establishment of digital communities that provide different kind of governing services for people that you can opt in, opt out, and participate in. And there'll be multiple options, just like there are multiple blockchains. That's what I see. that's where I see it going, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, the staking thing I really liked, because if we had a staking as a service, but on a governmental level or on a state level, that means I could stake like gold almost, but Bitcoin. I would stake my Bitcoin. It would still remain in my custody, but I would stake it, because we can do that today. Lock it up. The government could then utilize that to run and operate government and earn yield, and then engage in the decentralized finance world and utilize that. And because I'm opting in on that, then I have my voting then you can build out the voting mechanism. So instead of having decentralized autonomous organizations, you'd have a decentralized autonomous country. And then you could run your country through consensus.
I don't think we'll need countries.
No, you would still need regions, I think, because people...
Regions, but not...
Well, you could roll up, couldn't you? You could roll up communities. You could roll up to a state level, but you could roll up. So like the United States, you have your districts into your state and then into your federal state.
Right, but I think you're going to have... Like, we don't need it to be all geographically based.
But how would you envisage that working if it's not geographically based currently?
Well, because if you have 1 billion people worldwide that are all consensually a part of this mechanism, they have more political power than a nation state with 400 million people.
But how would your staked citizenship or staking for citizenship, how would that work then? If you're not a citizen, but you're a member of something,
a consenting member that can opt in and opt out at any time. So the group has to actually meet the needs of the majority of people, or they will leave and seek an alternate entity to stake.
How would you distribute the services that we're used to in certain states? So how would you distribute healthcare, for instance, sake? How would you distribute, or you're saying there is no healthcare?
There is private opt-in health maintenance organizations or health insurance options, health communities. You know, you can participate in a decentralized way.
Well,
there'll be multiple options. The ones that provide the best service will be the ones that lead.
But then what is the point of staking then? Like, what is the point of opting into something and staking Bitcoin, for instance sake?
Well, if you have to opt in and stake something, right? You stake something, and that actually is where the yield from whatever you're staking. So I could see it where, so let's take healthcare for instance. You're basically joining. It's like you're signing up for a healthcare, a health insurance. So you guys have it different than we do here. I think, like, we still have a private health insurance mechanism, although it's very, very regulated and very, very manipulated, and they actually have a lot of influence over the government as well. And a lot of these entities are also they're also owned and controlled by the drug manufacturers and the other insurance companies and
it's for profit. Yeah,
right. It's for profit, and it should be. It should be because you don't have a right to the labor of a doctor just because he's helping people health wise. He had to put in the work. He took the risk to learn how to be a doctor, and part of that is to have the reward of being able to earn a comfortable income through that. But there's also it's hard because we should always just be encouraging more people to have those skills, right? Part of it's encouraging more people with those skills, so that there's broader availability of those to meet the market demand.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it is everything's very extractionary right now. So like you pay a lot of money if you are insured, because the people that aren't insured can't pay. So, and then they end up with these massive bills that end up being bad debt, so that the company that owns the hospital can now write off this huge debt and even justify even higher costs for those that are paying. So it's this weird cycle. So I guess if you were to establish a mechanism where people joined and staked crypto versus paying monthly fees, and then the insurance company could then take the income that they're holding and earn yield off of it to cover their operating expenses. That might be how that mechanism works, but they'd also have to be good at turning yield from the money that they're holding, which an insurance company should be doing. So there'll be lots of work for actuaries or AI actuaries to kind of come up with those mechanisms. But that company doesn't have to be geographically based. They can be a digitally existing entity and then contract in various locations where their members need services. And maybe their contract is better than somebody else, or somebody else comes along and they can do it more efficiently, then the market's going to go there. That's how a free market works.
So you're proposing that we no longer have government and that we have choice.
So I'm not going to say we no longer have government, because I'm not looking at it as an either or, but I think a lot of these services will start to come out of the centralized governing bodies, and the stuff that we rely on them for we won't need them. We won't need them because we can organize much more efficiently without them and in a more holistic way.
So what do you envisage government being then?
Smaller.
Yeah, no, but to what extent? So national security?
Yeah, well, there's always going to be a national government. That's probably like one of the key features, right? And there'll be some jurisdictional stuff, if there's bad actors. So there'll be a justice department. There'll still be there'll still be some interstate commerce and interstate. Like a Department of Transportation might not need to exist anymore. That might offset to a private entity that handles certain infrastructure better, Maybe not.
So you're looking. So the government will still protect its citizens. It would also be look after jurisdictional stuff. So after the laws, make sure that the laws are there to protect its citizens as far as jurisdiction's concerned, as well as
and
military. Yeah.
Right. There'll be courts.
Yeah.
And there will be, I'm sure there'll still be a Department of Health at the federal level and also at state levels. But there'll also be different kinds of engagements so you won't necessarily have United Health and Blue Cross insurance companies. You'll have different kind of organizations that you can join that maybe aren't for profit, but are distributed and decentralized and collectively owned and or operated by the users and the input of the users. who can opt in and opt out, go start their own if they don't like it.
So almost like people could go and create their own co-op.
Right. The tools are there now for us to start doing that.
Yeah. Okay. So you're saying government would take so government technically could take away education, it could take away healthcare, it could take away potentially like the infrastructure, so building infrastructure because people would.
So I see that government would, a lot of that stuff would just become unnecessary. It becomes obsolete as far as needing the centralized, top-down, bloated government apparatus to handle that stuff. So this is kind of it's kind of a deep concept, and it's all theoretical, right? But I can see, and I don't think it's something that happens overnight, but I could see where these rails start coming up and start existing, that it would allow society to transcend the current governing model while still including that model. It's not challenging it. It's not an opposition to government. It's just the creation of new paradigms that make it make us less dependent on that entity. So you may have heard me say before, transcend and include, right? Like we transcend and include. We're not trying to eliminate centralized governance. We're trying to transcend needing it, like having it be the only thing and no other way to reach our goals but going through this centralized oligarchy that controls everything. We need to transcend that. Just like, so my capacity to wage violence. So if I can't do bad, if I can't hurt somebody, then I can't. Where'd Haddy go?
Hey, I'm sorry. I have no idea. The
happened?
Internet just dropped out on my end. First world country and all.
Yeah, they don't like this conversation. It's the government.
Oh, maybe. Oh, potentially. Yes, this is true. That is very. It could be. I mean, I'm in Europe.
So if I can't wage violence, then my not engaging in a violent response isn't really virtuous. It's just how it's all I have, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to lose my capacity to wage violence. I want to transcend it, but I still include it within me to grow.
This is almost like Star Trek.
Maybe.
No, I'm thinking the idea is really cool. So what you can constrain government, for lack of a better word, from bloating itself, because you're saying these are we're defining what your role is. And there's no more than that because it's all gone. We've cut it all away. We've dissected and it's gone. These aspects we will choose for ourselves, we the people. And the beauty of it would also be when government's smaller and there's more responsibility coming down to ourselves, we take more interest in the government part of it, like our self-governance and our direction. And then we can also say community now comes back again because we need to work with our fellow neighbors because we want a better community. We now own the infrastructure for the road. Do we need a bigger road? Do we want to pay for a bigger road? We don't need it, so we're not going to pay for it. Do we want this? Yes, we do want this. So we're all going to put it in because we know that it benefits us directly and we can see the direct output of what our labor is putting into. So where our labor, converting that into money or into Bitcoin, the fruits of our labors we can see in front of us. We're not necessarily building it, but we see it because we have directly inputted. Our schooling is better because we've decided we want only 25 students in a class. We're not interested in what our neighbor county is doing. Our county has 25 students. We all know what that costs. We all put our money in. We have clever people who work the DeFi and make the magic happen for us.
Right. Well,
we're taking control again.
Right. Exactly. We're getting more hands-on in our capacity to actually rule ourselves, which is good actually for everybody. It's really good for everybody.
We've lost that capacity because we no longer have choice. We're disincentivized to have choice because we don't believe that it actually makes a change or that we're actually being heard, which is clearly evident. So from an outsider's perspective, I watched the US elections and the media is saying one thing, legacy media saying one thing, and then we have non-legacy or alternate media having a completely different message, which is actually what people are saying, rather than the sugar-coated, this is what it actually, like what we're telling everyone it is, but it's not.
The media is a good example too. I don't want to get, so one thing I want to do say, Nobody Famous said, do you believe government would really be willing to hand over its power? No, of course not. Of course not. And it's not something that's going to happen by direct conflict or in a quick amount of time. What we're talking about is the potential for the rails that are being built in the crypto and AI space that will be able to actually do a lot more stuff in a lot more efficient ways, with a lot less waste and with a lot more preservation of the individual's value that they create being held at the individual level, and more opportunity for everybody that way. But I don't think that it's going to be. I do believe. I mean, we see the government is very, very much against in some parts, some facets of the government. Some factions involved in the government are very, very opposed to this stuff, for sure. But I do see. So actually, the other thing is. It's 10 o'clock, so our meeting, we're right up on our meeting time, which I don't know. I didn't get well, we'll talk offline. We'll talk offline on that. So what are we, what was the thing you just said before I lost track because I wanted to respond to it?
No, I think, well, I was just talking about government that we're going to reduce.
We're taking more of the capacity to rule ourselves, and it'll get more people involved, and it'll give more people more opportunity to actually have input and say on that stuff.
Correct.
On those things.
Well, we need to take more ownership, like civil. We need to take our civil. What do you call them? The civil. It's not just civil liberties, but you take your
duties.
Your civil duties back. So you say, well, I have a civil duty. So me being a part of this community, me being a part of this country, me being a citizen or a member comes with responsibility. And I need to take that, because how can I have freedom without responsibility? So in order to have freedom, I then have responsibility. And I need to have that.
I will often say, he that does not rule himself is destined to be ruled by others. So the way to start on this now, we all have the capacity to actually start working on this now. Establish your own moral dictates, like what you will do, how you will act in certain situations. Don't let it be dictated to you. Determine what is the most valuable action for you to take based on what you believe and what you follow. Set your own rules and follow them. It's not just get away with whatever you can, because that's letting somebody else rule you, by the way. Be cool with your own established rule set and follow it. Have your own code and then apply morals to it if you can.
No, 100%. So you need to own your responsibility within a society. Therefore, that's part of being free, or having a free society, is you owning part of that freedom and upholding that freedom. That's also your responsibility. And then the other part of that is what you were talking about, which I found really interesting, is people think about what we were talking about earlier, saying we have layers, and we're thinking about blockchain and everything is like, oh, NFT, and we're selling this and we're doing that, and we have DeFi and this, but we're not actually thinking on a larger scale and thinking, hey, we're actually building the framework and the layers to build something vastly greater, where we have an opportunity to change the way in which we are today. We can reduce governments, not control, but reduce their responsibilities. We take more of that on, and we now have the tools to do that, and we can bring communities back into it. We can build communities again. That's what we've lost. It's a sense of community. And once we have communities and a shared outcome,
we can build communities both locally and digitally, where there's not a geography involved, where we are building communities. Actually, we are doing this right now. It's just that the purpose is less is usually a little bit more focused than what I'm talking about, but we Nobody Famous is absolutely right. We have the ability to do these things right now. We just don't have the atmosphere yet ready to adopt all of this stuff. It's still going to be all built out, but it can be built out. We have the ability to build these things out now.
Well, these are the start. The games we're playing with building things out and looking at tools and understanding how NFTs work and how blockchain work, DeFi, and thinking of alternative ways of governing ourselves is also the stepping stones to us being interplanetary, because at some point we're going to be on other planets and we're going to be in other solar systems. And how do we interact with each other? And how do we have a civilization that's spread across the stars? And these are the building blocks, and these are the longer conversations. And now we're having these tools to say we can have a framework to govern ourselves, not only on one planet, but multiple planets. And how do we interact? Because they're going to self-govern. And how do they interact? So we're building the self-governing tools for each planet or for each region that's going to come after us, because we're not going to be on Earth forever. We're going to move out into space.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of just writing itself. It's coming. I've been talking about this stuff. I haven't had quite the same outward voice reach, but I've been in a lot of different chat forums in the day, and I've been talking about these concepts for a long time, and now it's actually stuff that is actually functional now. So I'm very optimistic for the future. I think we have a lot of opportunity. It's not given that it'll go this way. It's not a given that it'll go this way. There's people that choose the alternate path, that want to dominate and control as many people as possible instead of empowering everybody to expand and grow as they will. But I think most people, given the opportunity to really digest this concept, would be in favor of this versus the alternative, in my opinion. So we just have to keep doing it.
Well, it's like I've explained before, blockchain will allow us to reach the stars, will allow us to think about how we approach reaching out to the stars, but it's also going to allow us to see opportunity. So there's a new opportunity horizon that it allows us. These tools that we're leveling and stacking on top of is giving us a new opportunity horizon. So more opportunities to think about things differently, to govern ourselves differently, but also to create prosperity for more. So it's a win-win-win 3 times. It's not just two people winning. We can now have a win-win-win 3 times. So there's more parties can win in this, in using blockchain and thinking about these tools. And as you said, it's not just one region, it's globally and then interplanetary. So we have those opportunities now, which is amazing that we have way more opportunity.
It's coming. When we were still in high school and even in our early 20s, we're around the same age. The world was very different. The internet was still very new, and there was a lot of optimism around that, what could come. But it actually so nothing's linear, right? Everything's a wave. So we had this massive actual new amount of available information and freedom and innovation, and then corporate entities learned how to consolidate the control over that and use it to actually the opposite end, to basically control and manipulate. And there's been reaction to that over the last couple decades actually. And so now we're kind of hitting back to this reaction again, where we're pulling up. We got more capacity for more freedom, more innovation, more resistance to such consolidation and control. And so it'll go. And then eventually we're going to probably see this big spike going in the direction we want it to go in the short term. And then eventually someone will come along and figure out how to consolidate that again. And, it'll just keep going, riding that wave up and down. Freedom, tyranny, freedom, tyranny, freedom, tyranny. And we'll see how it goes, But I do think that we need to have more open, honest, and inclusive mechanisms for governance and social, or I don't even like the term governance. I like to use social organization, because that's what it is. I think we're at a point where we can go in some really interesting ways. And then if we don't do that, we're not actually going to get off of the planet until we do. Not meaningfully.
No. Well, if we can't resolve the issues with these amazing tools we have now and form consensus amongst ourselves to say that this is, we need to understand, like, this is the analogy I always use because it's one of the best ones, is there's always a bridge and you need the tension on both sides. So if we use the US as context, we say we need Democrats and we need Republicans because they both want different things. Some of the stuff's the same, but you need the tension to hold the bridge up. If one falls away, the bridge breaks, and then you have tyranny. So then you go over that you have one controlling party. So we always need two opposing sides to keep the other side in check. So your checks and balances. That's really important. And if we can't find consensus and have open, meaningful conversation amongst ourselves to actually see, we all want to prosper, we all want the same things. It's the same as the US and Russia at the moment, everyone's talking about, they both want the same things. Russia wants their people protected, they want all these things. The US wants their people protected, they want them to be prosperous, they want them to be prosperous. Everyone wants the same things. Potentially a different way about going about it. And it's the US wants to enforce its power on and its influence around the world, and Russia wants to do the same, and so does China. So it's a power play, and it's a game of chess, not a game of checkers, as Trump said. So it's a game of chess, and it's a longer term game. But if we can't resolve these issues now, there's no chance we're going to get to having a civil partnership or a civil way of interacting. Then we're going to have Mars versus Earth, for instance. Say everyone's going to leave who doesn't want to be a part of Earth and go to Mars and build something new. And then you have the same paradigm where you have two forces which mutually assured destruction, because one can destroy the other.
There's some people that suggest that that's played out in the distant past, actually.
I assume so.
How does Mars have no atmosphere but water?
It has an atmosphere, and it did have an atmosphere. It's just not as, it doesn't have as much as we have. I think it is, isn't it?
My understanding is it has like no atmosphere.
But it also has got shielding, the way we have.
Anymore.
Yeah. It hasn't got shield, like the magnetic shielding we've got. But that could be from a war.
So it's actually 100 times less dense than the Earth's atmosphere. So it does have an atmosphere, but it's very...
It's virtually nothing, man. It's 100 times less.
Right. It's right.
But it has no magnetic shielding, I think. So that's why the things that Elon Musk is building are all for Mars. That's why the Boring Company is for Mars. It's not for here, it's for there. The like having Grok and building out the AI is to run those autonomously across there. So
the boring machines are for going underground.
Yeah, for building out cities underground because there's no shielding. Initially in Mars, you'd need to live in a crevice or in craters, and the boring, you would need to bore under to create civilizations and to build stuff underneath. So initially you'd have to live underneath the ground because you can't, the radiation from the sun you wouldn't be able to absorb. Like we would die.
So eventually, I know the plan is to actually geoengineer the planet so that it can sustain that without going underneath. I think that's
which is why finding the water was one of the biggest catalysts. Now we can find water, which means we can create atmosphere. Plus, we also have an energy source to become back and forth. So we'll be able to play around with the water to be able to create things. And we can also, the water allows us to, then we have, I think that it's the methane. So he's based his on methane, which means it's a readily available source on Mars. You'll be able to create methane to be able to come back again. But his robots, the Boring Company, and the AI is all about building out the infrastructure there where you can send, because we won't be able to go there.
The rockets.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's all that's what I'm saying. The automation is to send everything there and build in preparation for us arriving, because we as humans, we're too weak to survive in that atmosphere. And in those circumstances, we need to be underground. So initially, you're going to need all of those, the rockets going back and forth. Bearing in mind, what will happen is they have been tracking all the, what do you call them? The objects that are going around in space, because those actually hold minerals and resources that are sometimes more dense, like
asteroids and meteors and whatnot.
So that's another reason, and that's why Mars is a brilliant one, because it hasn't got the atmosphere and it hasn't got the gravity. It's actually easier to launch. So it actually takes less energy to launch from there.
Oh, so that could
actually... So it means you can then go out and get resources, so it now becomes this beautiful place for grabbing resources. Then those resources can be refined and then sent back to Earth.
Brilliant. Let's do it. You know what? We got Jack and LMNO are waiting for us.
I know they're waiting for us, as always.
They're waiting for us, and great guys. So awesome. I'm so glad you made it. This was
thank you. Yes.
The best conversation we've had on the show so far. I've had some good ones, but this was a good one. Love it. We'll talk soon. Like in moments. Do me a favor. Did you set up a Google Meet, right?
I set one up, yeah. I can put it in the group if you want.
Yeah, send me the link, because I don't think I got an invite. I don't think I got an invite. Or I missed it.
Maybe I forgot you because it was on the DeOrganized.
It was on the thing. Yeah. I just didn't get it. Yeah. Do me a favor. Shoot it into the group.
I'll put it in the group, yeah. I want to just leave with one thing to say. Thank you to everyone. Thank you for having me on, Peace. Thank you to everyone who turned up today. And all roads lead to Vegas is what I want to leave with.
We're going to get there.
I know.
Although I looked at the drive for me, where I don't like flying. It's like a 7-hour flight with a layover, with a half an hour layover. I looked at driving. It's like 40 hours on the road. So I'm trying to decide whether I want to spend 3 days driving. You take a train? I hadn't thought about that. I don't know. That's an interesting concept. I hadn't thought about that. Might not take me 2 days, and I don't have to do all. It might not take me more than 2 days, and I don't have to do all the. We'll see. But we're gonna get there one way. If I have to fly, I'll fly. I just don't like to do it. But we did hit over 350 live viewers. Thank you to our audience for that. And we'll be back at you again later. Come out to the Whatever Monday space. If you got stuff to chat about, we will be there. It's always a good time. And we'll be back at you on Monday through Friday, every Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m., roughly around 8:30 a.m. We go live, bringing you the stacks and broader Bitcoin ecosystem news every day. DeOrganized Media on Bitcoin Live. Thank you, Haddy.